Hi guys, how is it going? Good, I hope. Things are pretty good here. Thanks for asking. I am Andy and welcome. So I did actually do a reading today and film a reading today, but it just wasn't on the SD card when I looked, so I don't know what's happened there. One little bit of it was, but there's no point uploading a video that just says, well, I hope you enjoyed that reading. See you soon, subscribe, etc. Do subscribe, by the way. So anyway, I'm not going to have time to get a reading video out there today, but I thought you might like to take a look around the garden with me, because we're into fall now. The summer has definitely kind of, wouldn't say gone exactly, because we're still having some beautiful days. Less so today, but yesterday was stunning, really powerful sun, you know, it was lovely. But you can sort of tell from the way things are. The only thing that still seems to be growing is these artichokes here. They're really massive. Everything else is really showing signs of the end of the growing season, so really it's time to clear things out, make some plans, make some changes, that kind of thing. But take a look over here. We've got 3 chickens dancing around in the sawdust where they shouldn't really be, but they are rather naughty chickens. That's chickens for you. Yes, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Okay, but yeah, look, we've got some brassicas left, but they're really full of holes now, which is kind of a shame, but this is what happens. I just don't get to everything. These artichokes have had it. I don't know what's wrong, but I'm not going to grow them in containers again. But there's still leeks and stuff. But one potato patch totally overgrown. The other potato patch, like, well, 80% overgrown, but there's plenty of potatoes in the soil under there. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, brassicas were going on over here. And they've all been either eaten or given to the chickens if they were a bit rough. And leek seeds, still waiting for the leek seeds to come bursting out of these round things at the top. Over here is pure carnage. It was the peas, and the peas have a short season. They were delicious. I had loads of them, but they just kind of started dying a couple of months ago now. Tiny bit of tobacco left there. And so it's time to clear things out, and it's time to have a bit of a rethink too. Let's take a seat. So yeah, it's been a weird summer actually. Hell of a lot of things didn't grow the way they usually grow, but some things did. I've got no complaints. I've got a whole lot of food out of this garden so far this year, and these artichokes are going to be, take a closer look at those. Those are really kind of verdant and fulsome, and they'll be coming out of the ground slowly over the winter and feeding me. And maybe I'll can some as well, put them in jars with some brine and, you know, keep them, because there's quite a big crop here as far as I can see. Don't really know till I dig it up, because, well, I don't know about artichokes, they're a new one on me. But when I grow potatoes, sometimes you get a hell of a lot of foliage everywhere, really abundant. And you dig down and there's like 3 tiny little, you know, miniature potatoes on the end of the stalk. I don't know why that is. I don't know how they could put all those leaves out and still not grow, but they do sometimes. That's how they go. So, yeah, not only time for clearing the garden up and digging the soil over. It's kind of a time of renewal in a way. More than anything, it's making plans for renewal. And as I sort of sit here and look around, I've been cutting trees out of the way and things. I don't like to cut nature down actually, but you've got to sort of cut it back for its own good. You know, if you take all the straggly branches off the trees, the main tree keeps growing really nicely. So it's a bittersweet thing, but I do it. And I get lots of sticks for the fire, so I guess that's Mother Nature, and I guess that's the hand of Merlin giving me a bit of magic back for what I put in. But yes, I've been thinking it would be nice to have a little meditation hut out here. I could make videos in it, kind of share the garden with you guys a bit more, and it'd just be a nice place for me to chill and relax, because I've nearly always had something like that in the garden, but in these preppy times of trying to optimize as much growing room as I've got. I've ended up without that, and there's no reason why I couldn't build a little shelter. I'm just trying to think what I could build it out of. I think I might have to hit the builder's merchant and buy some stuff, some wood or some panels or something. But that'd be real cool, you know, because I could have a fire going out here as well in the evenings. I don't think I'd be able to make great videos in front of a fire, actually, because it doesn't sort of give off enough light to light the camera up. But you never know, I could try it. But it's been a kind of a weird year, and I think, you know, half of the magic of a garden most certainly is what you can grow in it. You see the magic happening. You put these tiny seeds in, and great big plants grow up from them. But the other half of the magic of a garden is actually having a place to be in touch with nature. And I'm immensely privileged to have this place to be in touch with nature. But I'll remind you of what I'm always saying, actually, you know, even if you live in a high-rise in a big city or something like that, and it's going to kind of cost you an arm and a leg to catch a ride out to the countryside, there is actually soil and clay down there underneath the concrete, underneath your feet. So when you ground yourself, you still connect with the goddess, you still connect with Mother Nature. And quite honestly, I'm going to say you connect with Merlin and all the magic that goes with Merlin. And not just Merlin, you know, all these amazing mystical figures have their earth energy all about them. And they're not physically limited, so wherever you are in the world, this is an absolutely true thing. Wherever you are in the world, and whichever of these people, if not all of them, you want to connect with. And Mother Earth has always got your back, and it just helps so much if you visualize that, if you believe that. And grounding's super important, because in these times that we're going through at the moment, we're all kind of, you know, thankful for science because of the vaccines that have been produced, and all the scientific answers to the craziness that's going on in the world at the moment. But that is kind of taking our eyes off the prize, which is that it's the metaphysics, I'm sure of it, you know. It's the God thing, it's the spiritual energy, it's the earth sprites, the tree sprites, they're all around us. I'm sure some of you can see them. They are where the magic is. And I honestly think science comes from sort of divine inspiration. I think that's really why we have science, why we have doctors, medicines, everything. And we're tending to lose sight of that because the doctors and the scientists largely don't believe in anything much spiritual, if anything at all. So they never kind of say, oh, well, you know, it's you know, a great bounty of the Great Spirit that I've come up with this vaccine. It's just like, well, I worked really hard and I've got this vaccine. And that's great, you know, it's wonderful to have it in the world. But I always try and remember that it all stems from nature in the beginning. So that's why I want to try and have a little cabin out here that I can spend some time in, and I'll certainly share it with you guys. That's kind of half the point of doing it. But the other side of it is just meditate for myself, you know. And I'll share what I learn in meditation with you guys as well, because that is totally what life is all about for me. But just great to build up my own grounding, and maybe, you know, it's grounding, maybe it's a good connection with nature for you guys to watch these videos. Who knows, who can say. But I'm certainly going to try and fix something up. Maybe I could use this greenhouse frame. It's really useful to have a greenhouse, actually. But we're getting stronger and stronger winds every year. In the last 2 or 3 years, the greenhouse has blown away, and that's like damaged half the seedlings I was trying to raise. And this year it blew away 3 or 4 times, which had incredible storms. And at one point, it was very nearly in the next field. It was like up in the trees at one end of the garden. The whole thing, and the sides of it were actually dug something like a foot into the ground, and were all loaded up with stones. So it must have been a hell of a storm that blew that away, but blow it away it certainly did. And I'm just thinking, you know, I don't really want to throw that frame away. It's a good frame, nor do I want to keep buying plastic covers for it only to have them torn up by the hand of nature, by the storms that we get. So I wonder what I could do with that. I think that might possibly become part of the meditation shed. But it doesn't need to be that big, that's all I'm thinking. You know, a tiny little hut would do pretty well for that. The apple tree had a crazy time this year. There it is. I don't know how easy that is to make out from the other trees, but it's got slightly lighter green leaves on it than the other trees around it. And that's the apple tree. It's very, very old apple tree. And this year, not one single apple grew on it, which is really strange. That was the case about 3 years ago. I cut it right back because it was sprawling and I wanted to kind of, help it build up strength in the core of itself. So I cut it right back and it didn't actually produce any apples that year. But that's kind of fair enough. You sort of expect that from a tree when you cut it back. But no, not one single apple this year. And that's a real shame. I mean, I guess it's the tree doing its thing, and I guess it's all good in that sense. But it really is helpful to be able to get the apples, and they make a big difference. I can make cider out of them, which I don't do anymore because I gave up drinking. But they can be canned, to last into the winter, because it produces a hell of a lot of apples, actually, once it gets going. And they're just really handy to have, especially in the actual season when they're actually fresh. They're the most wonderful apples. It's some kind of Welsh breed of apple. I don't know too much about it, except to say, I've lived with this tree for 30 years and I've eaten many, many of these apples. And they are beautiful tasting. They're not like any other apple I've ever seen or tasted or heard of. And they make fantastic pies and crumbles. They're real good cookers. Better cookers than eaters, I think. But why were they none this year? Have to find out. It is very overgrown, to be fair. Coming down here, it's very overgrown indeed, and it's kind of getting choked out by brambles there. But that wasn't the case at the beginning of the year, and it usually gets like that as we go through the summer and everything grows and goes wild. This is what I'm talking about. Twigs. I'm related to them, as you know. Won't take long for these to dry out, and then they are wonderful for lighting a fire without chucking loads of paraffin on it and kerosene and stuff. Just like real good fire with these. They give the heat off really quick and it makes the logs take. Just a short one there. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. There'll be more of the garden stuff, actually. People seem to like it, and it really is the seat of nature, and that makes it the seat of all the earth energy, all the goddess energy. Lots of fairies, lots of tree sprites, lots of elementals. So look out for more of look out for more of these. And I'll see you again in a future video, guys. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, leave me a comment, we'll share the journey. So love and light, blessings and peace.